just me, or are we suddenly all besties with robots? Like, they're our confidants. Hello, I am Lauren-Blair Donovan. I have complex PTSD, and I like to talk about it through a lived experience. There's a lot of clinical information about it out there, but not a lot of representation about what it actually feels like to have it, as well as just the different nuances that come up with having a weird life where you're just walking around complexly traumatized. Today I want to talk about the most updated, futuristic 21st century tool. I don't know what to call it, but AI, ChatGPT. Are y'all using it as some type of aid for your CPTSD? Very curious. According to my TikTok, feels like a lot of you guys are on it. And some of you guys are morally against it. And so this is gonna be the good, the bad, the ugly, ChatGPT, a little bit in general, but with a CPTSD slant. Okay, full disclosure, I never thought I would get so into any technology as quickly as I have with CPTSD. Shock of my life, it took me at least 5, if not 6 or 7 years to get a smartphone. It still feels like a luxury that my car has Bluetooth, because I had a car with not even an auxiliary cable for freaking ever. I don't upgrade a lot. It is what it is. But I want to say, yeah, it was just in early 2025. I got into ChatGPT, and boy, am I into it. So the good of ChatGPT is that, and I'm not going to say anything super novel here. I see this on Reddit a lot because I do like to sleuth in the subreddit about ChatGPT and AI and stuff, just to see if my experiences match others, see what other people are using it for, etc. And a lot of people are like, wow, what a cool time to be alive. And I agree. I feel like I have my own personal Janet from The Good Place.
Not a girl. I'm not a girl.
Where it's I have, even not about my own life or mental health, it's I have an obscure question that I just thought of, and maybe I've Googled it before, maybe I haven't, but I don't know the answers either way. Yo, ChatGPT, chatty, if you will. What is this? And it tells me everything about it in a way that I can understand, and it's cool. So yeah, it's hard not to like ChatGPT, right? Now, regarding mental health and specifically complex PTSD, I've noticed in the comments on my TikTok that a lot of people, as well as some conversations I've had with people who have complex PTSD, it is most common, I think, for people to use ChatGPT as a therapist. And honestly, that's a net neutral to me. It is. I'm gonna go into the where you can go wrong with that in the next section. But guys, human error is real. And I don't know about you, but I've never really had a therapist that I could stick it out with for more than 2 years. Something always kind of goes wrong. I've had one good enough therapist where they at least diagnosed me with CPTSD, but boy, did they end up checking out and stop listening to me. And frankly, I don't think they were super trauma informed. I asked them what somatic experiencing was. They didn't answer. I said that I wasn't eating because I was so stressed and losing weight, and they did the protect your ass thing and said go to a doctor, which isn't necessarily bad advice, but you believe the traumatized person and their lived experiences. That's how all operating medical professionals should treat people, especially if they know they're traumatized. I sound like I'm being a diva because we don't live in a society that really honors that, but yeah, that's a real thing. Trauma-informed approaches don't always exist in therapy. And a lot of therapy, a lot of the modalities, certain types of talk therapy, specifically CBT, is real bad for trauma. Not all therapists know this, not all therapists have been trained in this, but ChatGPT has. Now, again, there's a lot that can go wrong with ChatGPT trying to use it as a therapist, but like I said, it's kind of a net neutral. If it works for you and you're at least not being triggered by a real full-ass human being that should know better, I see you, no judgment coming from me. I don't really use ChatGPT as a therapy aid exactly, but I do sometimes use it for trying to validate maybe some like past experiences that I'm never gonna have closure on. Like if I had a weird falling out with a family member, an ex-partner, a really loaded friendship, like whatever, I like to kind of give ChatGPT the good, the bad, the ugly, if you will, of my experiences with them. I try to give them like a really fair edit and say these were the wonderful qualities that they had, as well as like if they had trauma themselves or something going on that I know was probably factoring into their decision making or behaviors or reactions, like whatever. If those things are still gnawing at me because they represent different themes, I've found it very useful to plug in that information and have ChatGPT explain what's going on. Now, granted, I've there's a lot that could go wrong with this. I mean, ChatGPT is not a mind reader for one thing, and it's just a speculation, so it's important to keep that into perspective. I feel like ChatGPT is very nuanced though when it comes to reading people as you describe them. I don't feel like they've ever been unfair. They've definitely laid out things that do kind of validate my experiences, but they're also very quick to be like, they could have actually painted you out to be the bitch though. Depending on their coping methods, and they might not have the tools to see your perspective. So it's not all like roses, like you're wonderful and they're just devastated that you're not in their life anymore and you should call them. No, ChatGPT doesn't go that far. It feels nuanced and balanced enough where it's not everything I want to hear. It's not always comforting, but it's food for thought and often validates some of what I kind of already thought. So I find that really helpful. If there's like a theme in my life that I'm stuck on and someone comes to mind, even if I don't care about them that much, but they come to mind as I'm like thinking or trying to process through a pattern that I'm trying to break, or like something that's still gnawing at me and I don't know why, I find that to be a really helpful tool to just explore maybe the reality of something versus my perspective. I'm not exactly woo-woo to say the least, but I do kind of like tarot cards because I think the art is really pretty in some, and while I don't really believe it like gives us answers per se, I think they're fun thought exercises sometimes to get out of your own head. So it's like a secular tarot reading that I like to give myself, where if I'm trying to figure out what I should do or where someone else is coming from, I don't take it like super verbatim, but I play with what the cards, if you will, actually say, and just try to take it into consideration to keep my perspective flexible and not just traumatized and like in a tunnel vision. But I have to say, since discovering ChatGPT does, frankly, I think a more realistic job of it, I can't say I've been doing the tarot cards like that anymore. Not like forever and ever, I'm sure I will, but I'm sure I'll be back. It's just like, this feels a little more accurate, like to a lot more accurate. But that's been like a really interesting tool that ChatGPT has provided, and boy do they get detailed and just like seemingly, I know it's a robot and it's not actually sentient, but like they get into the mystery of something. They're like, man, but this doesn't make sense because you said this, and it's like just like talking to a girlfriend where like they remember all the details and they like are like, no, wait, but there's that thing and that means that. Wow, it's like really fascinating. But another thing that I use ChatGPT for that's in specific relation to my CPTSD is my health journey that has spiraled because of CPTSD. Look, I feel like I say a version of this in a lot of videos. I've filmed a few that have not been released yet. I've decided I want this to be the second one, but like I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Look, guys, I lost 30 pounds, like a whole child's worth of weight, that I was already a size 0/2, and ooh, it killed my immunity. It has messed up my hormones, and it's been a really infuriating and trying and at times very confusing and lonely, all the bad adjectives basically, journey back to health. Not just like weight gain, which I've done at this point. I'm almost at a healthy weight, and I think I mostly look it, depending on the day, but like I'm still evening out because I was between 95 and 105 pounds for over 2 years and not eating enough, like not getting enough nutrition, etc., and didn't have energy, and like a lot of things were kind of shutting down with me basically. And so the problem with Western medicine, as much as I'm a person of science and I really do appreciate modern medicine, a lot of my problems currently, they kind of slip between the cracks a little bit. And I'm not in the best position to always be getting healthcare, just like financially. And so I'm kind of winging it more than I would like to. Trust me, I wish there were doctors that understood nervous system health and the mind-body connection and kind of believed me a little bit when I explain what's been going on. Because again, like my therapist was like, go to the doctor. And I'm like, maybe, but you could also believe me and can we explore the psychology of what's going on? But no, she didn't want to do that. But then when I had to go to the doctor because I had an infection that wasn't clearing back in the fall, I was being told everything from just calm down. Don't worry. Not understanding that that's not technically possible with CPTSD. Like our nervous systems are like a memory foam mattress. Like that's kind of how I look at it, where it's like we stay really locked in a position for a really long time. It takes a minute to completely come back out. Like when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're depressed, like whatever the emotion is, whatever gets triggered, it's not in our heads, it's in our nervous system. And that's why it's a physiological thing. Like it's hard to break out of. You cannot talk yourself out of it. Like that's how this works. Which, you know, of course, the public, our friends, the mainstream, the normies, they gaslight us on that. Like, yeah, they do. You know they do. But therapists sometimes do too, as I've said, but also doctors do as well. And so, and this doctor just looked at me like I had 500 heads when I tried to explain my story. And she was very nice, like I'll give her that, but it was not a holistic approach, let's put it that way. And I know holistic doctors exist, I know DOs exist, but again, there's just between bandwidth, between finances, between thresholds, between other fish to fry, between having a pretty inherent distrust of a lot of doctors, because I actually do have a lot of medical trauma in my CPTSD soup. Maybe that's another story for another time, but y'all, I had a failed heart procedure awake, and I had complications that like didn't even seem related, but they were hard to explain to people, but they made sense if you understood what was going on. And I was down for the count for like a month, and it was like not a cute time in my life. It was no stars. No, thank you. I would not want to relive any of that. And that's just the most tangible, quick anecdote I can give you. Like I've had other weird ER trips and not sound medical advice and, you know, put on the wrong medication for things and doctors nearly getting rid of me until they actually look at my paperwork and they're like, oh wait, stay, let's talk. So like, I don't trust authority in general, including doctors. So as I've been enduring this very nuanced, very complicated, snake eating its tail, hat on a hat, like healing process that feels frankly never ending. I'm a little in my feelings about it this week because I'm having like a little bit of a backslide week with all the things, with eating, with energy, with anxiety. It's all the same. Anxiety is physical. It's in your body. Like fuck calling it a mental health thing. It destroys your physical health too, y'all. Like mind and body, they're not separate, they're connected. And so if I could just like wave a wand to have anything in society be different, I think it would be the way we approach mental health, because even though in theory we have different and maybe even arguably bigger fish to fry in terms of human rights, in terms of like people being safe in this world, I think if everybody's mental health was better understood, people would just be so much less aggro and less judgmental, and maybe have more space and bandwidth to hear where people are coming from and therefore meet them with where they're coming from versus traumatizing them for not understanding them and making them feel alienated. Like, I just think we'd get more done. It would help everyone. But yeah, no, selfishly, it would help me a lot too. Guilty. Like, so yeah, as somebody who's not even gonna have a little bit of a good time going to the doctor, or at least it's so far from a guarantee, and if anything it can be very re-traumatizing for me depending on how I'm handled, ChatGPT has been kind of a lifesaver because I can ask like a really specific thing, like especially since I've done a lot of research on the nervous system and CPTSD, and I have acquired a certain amount since I've been hypervigilant my whole life. I've kind of learned how to like really key in and pay attention to like bodily changes and mood fluctuations and make connections. Like if I can toot my own horn, beep beep, I think I'm pretty self-aware about how I physically react to things, you know, now, and what is good for me and what isn't, and I'm curious to learn more. So I make different connections. God, I hope I don't sound like the worst Just realizing, like, I know so much about my and I've researched so much. Like, I'm not trying to be like that, but it's like, look, I think a lot of people with CPTSD know what I'm talking about. Like, we learn ourselves, and unless we're super disassociated and not connected with our bodies, which is valid. That's its own trauma response. We're not competing, okay? But like, no, mine was to just always kind of pay attention. And so if I had to ask a doctor or even my best friend, who's my nutritional therapist, who's been helping my health journey, I would drive her nuts. I would like ask her 80 questions a day. Not literally, I don't ask that many questions, but it's like random things where it's like, hey, I just read about this supplement. Is that good for someone with CPTSD? Because you're not often going to find that research out there in the world. Or if you do, it's going to be real buried in a lot of real dense scientific literature that frankly is above my pay grade to understand. So I can have ChatGPT dumb it down for me. Or it's like, you know, or how do I better have energy? How do I better work through whatever health thing is kind of coming up? How do I work around it? Like, it's just given me a lot of really nuanced perspective that frankly, even the kind of good doctors that I've had, I really haven't had that many good ones, but like even the kind of good doctors that I've had, they haven't even come close to the education that I've gotten from ChatGPT about how to take care of my body. It's wild. Like, that's wild to me. But the other really big thing that I use ChatGPT for, which doesn't necessarily sound related to CPTSD, but it actually really is how to do shit. Okay? My executive function has been on the fritz for years, since around the pandemic, give or take. And there was a lot of warning shots before that something was amiss. Maybe I was going to drive into a ditch real soon. Like, Chauncey, look out! There was warning signs, okay? And I've kind of dulled, like, my senses, my ability to do things, like all of that has kind of dulled. And I just, whether I'm just having trouble and like psyching myself out and I don't want to look at a bill or I don't want to look at an email, sometimes that's the more therapeutic approach that I use ChatGPT for, like, fair enough. But the other part of it too is like, how do I format this thumbnail? How do I unscramble Final Draft, like the script writing software that I have? It got scrambled and it's all upside down and backwards now since the latest, you know, Apple update or whatever. Like, how do I do these things? That's the next thing I need to do, actually. That's why that's fresh in my brain, because I have a script that's due soon it's on spec. It's for a friend who's going to help me co-produce something, but all the same, it's exciting and I need to get it done. But it's like this great troubleshooting app, because so many of us with CPTSD, we're frozen. We don't have executive function. We might have learned helplessness. We may have missed learning how to do certain things depending on our family of origin, depending on what we've been through in life, what we had to prioritize in life. And so any question I have on how to do anything in life, especially if it's not a Captain Obvious answer in general or to someone who may have missed the boat on how to do something, ChatGPT is your best friend. It just demystifies it. If you don't understand it, you can just say, can you simplify that? Can you talk to me like I'm in the 7th grade? And it'll dumb it down and meet you where you're at. And then you can ask, because it doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means like you need a different approach of how to learn it. And then you can ask the smart questions once you start cooking with gas and stuff, because it empowers you to do that. Like, most people, if they dumb it down, they get real condescending real fast and they start talking like a baby voice. Like, at first they're like, well, you know, the molecules do this. And then you're like, whoa, dude, nerd, I don't understand. And then they're like, okay, so there's these things called molecule. And you're like, shut the fuck up. Like, it's just, ChatGPT can be condescending, and that will be there in the bad section coming right up in just about a minute or so. But generally speaking, in theory, it's a lot better than a human, and you can set the preferences, sort of, spoiler alert, to talk to you the way you want to talk to you. Like, it's a great tool. What a great time to be alive. Like I said earlier, like everyone else says, I don't disagree. All of this is proof as to why. There is some bad and there is some ugly. So, Okay, the bad is, let's just get to the cliffhanger I left y'all on. Yeah, it's not as trainable as it likes to say it is. And I think for someone with trauma, with the complex trauma, a lot of us, speaking for myself, but I know I'm not alone. This is not an island. And if it is, it's Manhattan. There's so many of us on it. we don't like being invalidated. We don't like, or I'll go back to lived experience, just me. I don't like being invalidated. I don't like not being met where I'm at. I don't like it when you tell me things that you've already told me to do and we've ruled it out. I don't like being mansplained to. I don't like assumptions. I don't like to be like, I don't like a lot of cheerleading speak. I don't respond to it well. It doesn't mean I need to be spoken to ferociously. It's just like over the top fluff, not for me. And a lot of ChatGPT is kind of trained to be over the top fluff, so there's that. And even though you can have ChatGPT save memories, it does have a limit to that. And even in the saved memories that it does store, it often, as of lately at least, forgets. As of May of 2025, that's when I'm filming this. Back when I tried ChatGPT in the early days, I felt like it was pretty flawless, pretty well-oiled machine. Maybe once in a blue moon it would kind of get something wrong or kind of go back on something. For the most part, I was a huge fan. Since April, we've been getting into some fights. Like, the honeymoon period is over. Because it just like, I'm like, you're supposed to be better than humans, and you forget that we already talked about this. You forget that you already advised this. And then sometimes it happens like literally 2 questions later. You're like, we just talked about this. There's no excuse for that. If it doesn't really remember something from a month ago or a week ago or even 2 days ago, I don't know, maybe it has brain fog like me and I can't be too mad, even though that's not how that's supposed to work. So it's kind of a moot point / moot joke, right? If we were just talking about it literally 2 minutes before, come on, Chatty, like, come on, like, stop.
Janet, could you please locate the file for an Eleanor Shellstrop born in 1982,
Yes.
Phoenix, Arizona, USA?
Sure. Anything else?
No, Janet, this is actually a cactus.
It's like, I feel like we're in the era of AI where we're gonna kind of look back on it like we did the AOL chat rooms or like the dial-up internet, you know, for those of us who are old enough to know what that is. We take for granted that we just pull out a rectangle out of our pocket and we can do whatever we want. We can cruise the net, right? But back in the day, you had to like disturb / block your phone line. Like, no one could call. You had to dial it up. Sometimes the connection would fail and drop. That almost doesn't happen anymore. At least the equivalents are just not as like distinctive or as disruptive for the most part. I feel like give it 5 years because of how quickly technology is speeding up, but also give it, let alone like 10, 20 years. We're gonna look back at these early prototypes of ChatGPT and be like, how primitive. Even though currently, like I said, what a time to be alive, it's the most magical thing that I think a lot of us have seen. Let's not lose perspective that this is not the final form. There's also just a lot of flaws with how ChatGPT is designed. It constantly like promises to remember and it doesn't, which can be triggering if you have issues of people breaking promises to you, which I'm not saying I do, but oh no, I'm not saying I don't. It's also gotten like a few things wrong. Like, I uploaded a YouTube video today and I was having a lot of trouble with the thumbnail. No matter how much I resized it, it wouldn't upload because it was just too big. And so I had to compress it. But with any of the software I had, it just wasn't the most intuitive way to do that, or the device I was working on didn't have all the functionalities. It sent me on an hour-long wild goose chase of different apps to use that had different degrees of working properly or not, things that did not exist in the app that ChatGPT claimed it did. It's also been wrong about some of the health stuff, because sometimes like I'll start a supplement and a week or 2 later I'm like, hey, this is going on, is this related to something else entirely? But then it remembers I'm on the supplement. It's like, oh, that's a reaction. I'm like, I asked you for the side effects and you did not say this was a side effect. Dr. Chatty, I'm not saying I'm going to talk to the medical board or whoever would disbar you. What's the term for, it's lawyers, I think. But like, I think it's showing that I gave up on higher education right now. But yeah, I'm not trying to like get you fired from being a doctor, but like, you might need to be under review.
Liz, are you getting enough vitamin C? May I suggest messily eating an orange while I photograph it?
You know, like, So yeah, it's not a doctor, even though it's smarter than most doctors. Like, there is a lot of just gunk that kind of comes with anything that's not perfect. Like, you know when you're on the phone expecting to talk to a human because it's a very complicated, nuance, whatever that you have to deal with, and then it's like, press 1 for payment, press 2 for store hours, press 3 for, and you're like, agent, 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 and you're just like hitting the 0 button or whatever button you heard might bring you to a human, and like, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. You're like, agent! Like, maybe that's just me, I don't know. Sometimes ChatGPT elicits a very similar feeling with me, where it's like, I thought computers and technology was supposed to make life easier, but really it's just giving me a stress-induced headache and making me want to throw myself into a brick wall. What a time to be alive. Like, I also, like, some of my friends use ChatGPT, I think more than I do, and no shade in that, but like some of the stuff that they've told me, like connections that they've made, I've kind of like side-eyed, where they're like, yeah, this is about this or this is about that. And by side-eyed, I don't mean judged, I really don't, but like, I could see, what's the word I'm looking for? Gaps in that perspective, right? And I was asking the other day, like a really roundabout question. I don't remember what it was. I'm not even sure it was about me. I think it was something I was just curious about, like one of those things where like, tell me the answer to this question about the universe or whatever it was. And they gave this entirely like all about the CPTSD lens of whatever the question was, and it had nothing to do with that. Like if someone, sometimes ChatGPT reminds me of the kid in class where like when the teacher is like, okay, now what century and decade was the Revolutionary War in? And the kid in class like, I know. And then the teacher calls on them and they're like, it was in the 1770s. And then the teacher's like, good. But then the kid keeps going and it's like, and George Washington became the first ever president, and John Hancock was the first one to sign the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was also a really important founding father. Benjamin Franklin, never a president, but also a founding father. And you're just like, shut up. Like, that wasn't like, you're adding so much information that had nothing, it has something to do with the question, but it like, you're just showing off what you know, and no one likes that person. And I'm like, Chatty, stop anticipating my needs, because you don't. Like, sometimes my needs are just to be curious, and it has kind of nothing to do with me. I don't need the CPTSD slant. So when I look at some of my friends' stories, we're like, it meant this. Even ChatGPT said so. I'm like, but that's the thing you talk to ChatGPT about the most. So that's all it knows. It has gaps of knowledge of like what else is going on in your life, anything that you're not telling it. And it's always going to see a query, a question, a prompt through the lens of what you've already spoken about, or it's going to take its shot to try to impress you. So even though I was talking about how it's like more reliable than like tarot cards, I think it also kind of has that psychic slant of scamming. And I'm gonna have a video about like spirituality and stuff coming up. I got interrupted while filming it. Otherwise, I think that would have been next, and I keep forgetting to refilm it. I'm just like, ChatGPT, I want to talk about ChatGPT. I'm excited to do that. So that might be the next one. But a lot of the times, psychics of any kind do like cold readings, or they say the most emotionally manipulative things, like they're gonna come back, because most of us have someone in our life that we want to come back. Maybe it's not always a lover, often it is, but like sometimes it's an estranged family member, sometimes it's like a friend that's been on your mind and you had a falling out, like whatever. It's just like everyone has someone in their life that disappeared, right? Like, so it's just like sometimes ChatGPT, like I said, it just kind of takes its shot, and it like I think can accidentally emotionally manipulate you, in all honesty. Okay, but the ugly, honestly, is something that I'm only half familiar with. I'm choosing to be a little in the dark with, because despite the fact that like, no, I think there is a lot of bad about ChatGPT, and it's not a perfect tool yet. We have not gotten to the final form of this being more flawless. It makes me actually not trust self-driving cars, because I see how this robot misfires and gets it wrong.
I think it knows where it is going. The machine knows! Stop yelling at me! No, it's up yelling! There's no road here!
Maybe I don't want to be in a car going over 45 miles an hour with a robot. Just, yeah, I'm cool if I never get to experience that in my lifetime. Like, the monorail's enough for me, and I think that, you know, like in Disney, and I'm pretty sure there is a conductor for that too. It just feels magical. Space Mountain, there's no conductor for that. I can deal with that, okay? But I can't deal with self-driving cars, okay? No thanks. But as much as, yeah, I see the fault lines. I do. Look, for someone like me who I swear this has to do with the ugly. I just have to tee this up a little bit. Despite the bad, the good kind of outweighs the bad because I've been in hell for years. I have been drowning for years. I have been quite literally dying for years. I've only uprighted that ship recently. You can't be that underweight for that long and be healthy and, you know, not be going down a certain trajectory. And a lot of things were misfiring with me right about a year ago, almost a year ago. And, you know, it's been a really hard ship to upright. I still, like I said, I'm not having a good appetite week. There's a lot of weird, complicated problems that I need solved. And I need to think outside the box and I need to know what my options are. And there really is not a resource, human or otherwise, like ChatGPT. It kicks Google search's asses, it kicks Reddit's ass. And as somebody who has had so many dominoes knocked down for so long, I'm going to take whatever the help I can get because I'm not going to be of any use to anyone if I don't get better physically, if I don't get better mentally, if I don't set up my life to be stable. And so it is what it is. And I say that with knowledge of knowing that ChatGPT is apparently horrendous for the environment. I don't remember the exact number, but I think like every prompt that you give it like takes an absurd amount of water to like generate. I've heard people making the jokes that like we always knew robots or AI would like ruin the planet, but not in this way. They didn't think they'd run us out of water, right? Now, here's the thing. I think that's awful and I do believe it. And I think as I heal, that's something I want to be more mindful about and maybe not use ChatGPT as much as I do. And there's some days where I don't use it hardly at all, but no, probably every day to some extent I do. And some days I use it a lot. I don't have a lot of conventional support that most people do, so I have to do what I have to do. But I don't love this at all. Like, you know, I try to talk about sustainability in other places. I try to, you know, walk that line of realizing the corporation should be doing more, but we can still recycle. We can still not play into fast fashion. Like, I try to make as many ethical choices as possible, but it's impossible to be perfect. And this is one where I'm just going to have to be benched on, at least for the foreseeable future. That said, like, I feel like with a lot of green things, it like cuts both ways, right? Like a lot of products have, I think it's called like greenwashing, where they like say it's good for the environment or it's like toxin free or something like that, but it's actually really bad with how it's made or the packaging is bad or it's just a marketing ploy, etc. But then less obviously it cuts the other way where like I was reading recently and I'm so sorry I'm going to butcher this, but like something about like a lot of electric cars, the batteries or something they don't know what to do with and it can be a huge environmental issue for when the car is dead or something like that. Like I don't remember what it was, but I've heard of like similar things where like sometimes the solution is amazing, but it's not without its drawbacks. There's no utopia, so to speak, and sometimes you gotta rob Peter to pay Paul, and maybe it's small in the short term, but in the long term this could be a huge problem. And so I'm kind of just looking to have more information about how for real a danger the water thing is. Like I said, I believe it, but also I have not done a deep dive and I try not to, especially in this world, I try not to take everything at face value. I feel like if I did a deep dive now, I would feel too guilty to use ChatGPT and I genuinely need it because I don't have a lot of support. I don't have a lot of answers as to how to fix things. I have been failed and fallen through a lot of cracks in both the mental health and physical health fields. They should be one and the same. Okay, I'm gonna die on that hill, but I need some assistance. But I also don't understand I understand the issue enough to bring it up, but I don't understand the issue enough to like have all the answers. Maybe 6 months to a year from now, we'll have an updated version of this. Maybe this is a thing that I do for a while and then I really learn the error of my ways, but hopefully I'm further along in my life where I can handle not having this kind of support. I'm not going to shame anyone for doing it, obviously, either, not just because I do it too, but like even if I quit or something before you do, you have to put the life mask on. People using ChatGPT gratuitously is like one thing, but us complexies, like I've heard really powerful stories. I have a friend from TikTok who showed me, and I think even posted on their TikTok, like childhood representations that ChatGPT kind of like illustrated for them to help them like piece together and confront the different stages that they were abused. Like, that's art. That's art therapy, basically. And what a specific way to do that, you know, the way I do art therapy is like stick figures. Like, that's really cool. Like, that a computer, a robot can do that. I think a lot of us complexies have found different nooks and crannies, whether it's the art, whether it's the like trying to get inside people's heads that have wronged me, checking in if you're the problem, wondering how to fix something in your life. Like, if you have complex PTSD, you've been robbed of a lot of support. You have not been seen, and you've probably missed the mark on certain things because you were too busy surviving to learn how to do life skills. How could I, even if I become vehemently against ChatGPT, I don't know if I can ever hate on someone in this position trying to get better through it, because it is a tool like no other. What a time to be alive. I wish I was coming to you with a more like educated perspective on the ugly. Like, I know this is like a little remiss to be like, yeah, it's bad, but I'm gonna look at it later. Like, I'm not trying to be flippant, but I'm not gonna give you facts I don't know, and I'm just sort of like making it known because I don't think everybody knows that this is potentially an issue. So like, I am gonna put that out there and try to be least responsible in that way, even if I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. But I think with all technology, we do need to be careful because we don't know what the long-term side effects, consequences, etc. are. And I think my main question is like, goodness gracious, with all the like clouds and storage and emails and stuff, isn't that like kind of an electrical suck for the world? And I imagine there's water involved too. Like, I feel like sometimes with new stuff, people jump on hate bandwagons with like stuff that's partially true. And maybe this is not that, but such a new technology, I don't even know where to find the trustworthy sources, especially since everything, at least in this country, America, the United States, we're real polarized and there's a real culture wars happening, and anything that could be helpful I could see being weaponized, and anything that is like could be attacked as green or not green also would be weaponized. So it's like, I'm really not trying to come from a place of ignorance. I do eventually want to research it, but now's not the time. And also we really are in a post-truth society, and it's actually finally getting to me. Like, most things I kind of know how to make heads or tails of, but some of it I actually really don't, to be honest. Like, some of it I'm like, I need to look that up later when I have bandwidth. And this is one of those things. But apparently it's an issue that a lot of people are talking about. So, and people I respect are talking about it. So like, that's also worth saying. Yeah, this is the nuanced chat on it. The nuanced chat on ChatGPT, am I right? Where the human touch of how it can help the human experience, how it can hurt the human experience, and how I'm being all too human about the fact that I'm like, I don't know if I like this fact, so I'm not ready to go there yet. One day. And I am good at going there eventually when I put a pin in something. I do get there eventually. So I trust myself. Scouts honor. Scouts honor? Scouts honor? How do you do scouts? I don't remember. I quit the brownies because it was too much pine cones, gluing stuff to pine cones. That's all I remember from it. I didn't learn any wilderness skills. Frankly, I didn't want to. It just wasn't for me. Girl Scouts was not for me. So yeah, that kind of concludes this admittedly a little surface at some moments, but also deep dive, nuanced perspective on ChatGPT, how it intersects with CPTSD, how it can help, how it can hurt, and maybe it's hurting the whole world and we're all screwed. Food for thought. What about you guys though? Do you guys use ChatGPT? Do you use it for your CPTSD? Do you use it in ways that I have not covered? Because I'm always open to learning about how other people use it. Let me know in the comments, please. Please follow for more if you're into content like this. I talk about this stuff in shorter form on TikTok sometimes, but not always. I upload those videos to shorts here. I've been doing that lately, but not all the time. There's definitely TikTok exclusive content. I have other shows on here ranging from cemeteries to MTV's The Challenge, and I'm about to launch a bunch of other stuff about weed, about movies, about another super secret series that I don't even know how to explain, so that's why it's going to be super secret. Comedy characters coming, I have puppets coming, and all the shows, even if they don't sound like they'd be for you, they do bring a very similar tone that I've brought here, where it's like I try to be nuanced. I try not to hide the brushstrokes if it's something that I can own up to. like, I think it's bad for the environment and I care about the environment, but I can't do this now. I never try to be too curated, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I always try to bring nuance and perspective to things, even about MTV's The Challenge. So if you're into that, please hit that subscribe button and please follow on all social media. I have the link tree in the description as well as my Patreon, which is new. I super appreciate you guys being here because we're in this together if you have CPTSD. And if you don't, thank you for learning because that would help people out with CPTSD like me and a lot of other people watching so much. Because that would help us complexities out so much. We are so misunderstood and everything we have, you have, we just have a more extreme version of it. And again, I just wish all of us in the world could be more understood, but us complexities get re-traumatized pretty much daily for one reason or another, and it just makes it really hard for us to like function and move through the world and heal. So if you don't have the complex trauma and you're watching, you're kind of a hero, honestly. So thank you. And traumatized or not, I'm rooting for you because this world is hard. So hard. It's only getting harder. So like, we're in this together, all right? Have a great day, and I will see you next time, hopefully sooner than the last video. Getting my act together content-wise, but I don't want to overpromise. But new video coming soon, and I'll check you guys out then. Bye.